Jake Robinson live on Amazon Hangout Live. How you guys doing? Come on in the room. When you guys come in, say hello to Matt. Jamon Yerger, who is our featured guest from China. And where are you at? What particular province are you in right now?
I'm in Guangdong province, and the city I'm in is in Shenzhen, which is right next to Hong Kong.
Okay, cool. So we'll have people piling in here. It'll take a minute or two for people to come in, but you guys say hello. Tell us where you're from. Matt, his partner, is trying to log in right now. And is he in China as well today?
Yeah, he's hanging out at the beach these last couple of days for the holiday, so that's good for him.
Yeah, you guys have victory over Japan Day, right?
Yeah. Very interesting holiday for us.
Hello, Kelly from Houston, Texas. Glad to have you here. You guys also, when you're coming in, keep in mind that these guys have been on the ground now for over 10 years, sourcing products and working with manufacturers all over the country. So when you come in, be thinking about the questions you want to ask. I've also got some questions that came in off of our survey, and I'll be putting, hey, Robert is in Saigon. All right. So good to see you, Robert. Edmund in Boston. Rosalind in Memphis. Fellow Tennessean. Okay, Donna's in New Jersey. All right, I'll pull up my surveys from this session because we got some questions that came in off the surveys that are pretty good. So we're still waiting for Matt to plug in. All right, keep them coming. Ed from Long Island, New York. Glad you're here, brother. So what's the weather like, and what, is the season similar to what we have in the U.S. and because it's the same hemisphere? Jamon?
Oh, I'm sorry. Say again.
What's your weather like? I know that's a trite question to ask, but do you guys have similar weather patterns since you're in the same hemisphere?
Yeah, I mean we're kind of like we're like Cuba or like Miami kind of weather.
Oh, okay, really?
Down in the south. So it's like it's still kind of warm, but we get a lot of tropical storms and stuff like that. So usually we have 2 monsoon seasons, and we'll probably come into one after October, and it's kind of just like dreary and stuff like that. And then we have one in May. So it usually lasts. It's like where it rains for like 30 days, basically. Or you just have to take an umbrella with you everywhere.
I got you. Cool. And so you've been now. Are you where you live, or are you just visiting where you're at right now?
No, I've been here straight for 11 years. And
holy cow.
Yeah. All in Shenzhen. I lived in Beijing the first 6 months I was here, and at that time, man, the weather was not the weather, the pollution was so bad. I just was like, wow, I got to get out of here. It was during the daytime, you looked up at the sun and it looked like the moon. You could look directly at it, and then you just saw a big orb in the sky, and I said, I got to get out of here.
Wow.
Yeah, that was during the sandstorms as well, which was there was a lot going on. It's a little better now in Beijing.
So I imagine that's probably why their economy is booming in some respects, because you don't have the EPA and OSHA and all that other three-letter
yeah, exactly,
holding you back. You can just pollute all you want and build what you want and go as fast as you want. There's pros and cons to that.
There sure is. I kind of like China. Kind of reminds me of like an industrial revolution, kind of like unbridled 60s, 70s kind of manufacturing vibe. You know what I mean?
However, you guys are having a hellacious time in the stock market right now. Is that affecting? I mean, just because the price of the stock goes up and down doesn't necessarily affect whether Coca-Cola sells Cokes. They're still going to sell as many Cokes. So I don't imagine that it's having a direct impact on manufacturing. But how is it impacting you guys in the bigger picture?
Well, I'd say immediate, like right away, not super huge, but maybe in a couple months. Right now, basically what happens is that the stock market, a lot of people are in the stock market, like personal people and even business owners, participate in the stock market. And such a drop like this does affect real people. And for us in manufacturing, I think it's in some respects good and in some respects bad. And the way it's good is that the renminbi right now is 6.35, which has gone up from 6.1, 6.15. So everything is about 2% cheaper for Americans to buy things. That being said, though, is that Chinese factories are going to be a little bit more tight-handed with their terms, a little bit more tight-handed about giving away terms and stuff. They think they would prefer kind of a cash business, like 30% deposit, 70% before your goods leave, instead of giving you terms, or loans per se, So I think that's how this type of stuff affects factories. Hey, there's Matt.
All right.
Hey.
All right, Matt. At least you made it, brother. We're wondering if
I did make it. Yeah, sorry.
If the Chinese government was throttling your connection, man. They got you pegged.
Yeah, a little bit. Finally free.
All right. So I appreciate you coming back on. If you guys weren't here for the first interview, I interviewed Matt several weeks back, and he has two partners. And if you guys want to quickly, Jamon, tell the story about maybe how you three met, I'll let you guys do that.
Sure. Let's see. I met Matt about 11 years ago coming over for teaching English because I got out of college and there wasn't much really I was leaving behind. I was waiting tables, which I loved doing. I was making really good money, but I studied Chinese in college, and I was like, wow, I just got to get out of here and try something else. Got over to China, and when we first met up in Beijing, we were on the Great Wall, and a lot of people went right and we went left, and Matt was one of those guys, and another good buddy of mine, Mike, and we just kind of became friends after that. Started some businesses early in the day and failed, and learned a lot of valuable lessons in the many years we've been together and figuring that out.
So the three of you guys, your other partner, you met him. How'd you meet your other partner?
I think Matt's kind of frozen up, but Matt met him also in Shenzhen, I'd say about 7 or 8 years ago, most likely playing basketball. So we have a bunch of basketball teams around here that we just play, like pickups, and you all throw down like $35 and you get a full court and everything like that. I mean, all the guys run around and do stuff. So I think that's where he met Terry, and also worked for him for a little bit, just as just to help out and learn about molding and stuff like that back in the day, and then just after that we just started just unifying everything that we had, all of our knowledge and all of our experience, and just started to work together in that type of fashion, just to make it easier for all of us, because we've all been doing it for a long time, and now we have a nice office in Bantian, Shenzhen, and we're just cranking along.
So what can you explain your particular roles? Matt's dropped off, but I'm sure he'll log back in. Can you explain your different roles, like what's your expertise versus Matt's and your other partner?
Let's see. I'm more of Chinese language, production management. And so production management means, I look after QC, make sure how things run along, make sure that things are organized, how we communicate with the facility, how we set up our QC, going into facilities, making sure that things look right. So I'm more of the nuts and bolts kind of guy. Matt is more on the sales and working with our team in the inside of the office, and communicating specifications back and forth from the customer to to our team and stuff like that, and make sure that communication is clear. So that's like our side. That's our main business that we do with Southern or High Capin, and then we also have running with China, which is like a format which is is to help teach people and have people learn. So his expertise is like, translation, getting the details right, also speaking Chinese, getting people organized and ready for moving into China is also a really big feed that he does as well. And then Terry is on the other side where he's doing like product development, people who don't have a product yet, learning how to put products together, concepts, marketing, stuff like that. So that one's a pretty complicated one, but he's been doing it himself because he owns his own brand in America, and he's been doing that for the last, I think, 6 years as well, and selling to guys like Best Buy and Target and Walmart and stuff like that.
Wow. So why didn't you guys follow suit? Why didn't you go get your own product? And is it something that's just is it uniquely qualified that he could do that, and you just didn't want to, or you got your hands full? Seems like it would be something that would entice you to, hey, I want to have my own thing.
Well, I think having your own thing is a great idea, and we still do. But the difference in the direction he has gone is retail, big box retail, which is different than just creating your own product and doing it on Amazon or selling on a Shopify site or whatever, So while we do concentrate on having our own little brands, but they're not in the retail and big box sector, which is a very different market.
Okay. Are you guys marketing anything on Amazon?
Just some small products that we do. Just like nothing huge, we're just trying to test the waters and learn more about it. We're not professionals at how Amazon works, but we're learning because we also think it's a great tool for other people to know what other people's pain points are, and be like, hey, well, I see this is what I'm doing. Obviously, someone else is going through this problem as well.
Okay. A lot of the people who watch these interviews that I do are fairly new, getting into the private label field. They've heard about it, and they've started going to Facebook groups, and they start learning about it, and they see some YouTube videos, and they get mesmerized. And
Sure.
Maybe they got $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 that they've scraped together, or some less, and they're trying to figure this whole thing out. So one of the questions that Dawn had that she sent in that maybe you could address, and Matt, are you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. I just turned the video off. It was kind of dragging quite a bit, so I figured this would be easier to do. So I'm listening to everything, and I can jump in here and answer some questions and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm going to stay off the video.
Okay, fine. Don's question is, what mistakes do people make when contacting Chinese suppliers?
One of the big ones I think people make is that they don't contact with a large enough of a pool of potential sources. So for us, we like to start again with casting a wide net, like a fisherman, right? You want to cast in a wide net, bring in as much stuff as you can, and then sort through it, right? Because if you only go to 2 or 3, well, then maybe you get the best out of those 2 or 3, but not the best out of 30 or 50. And it's this kind of laying that groundwork and that kind of building that foundation to kind of sift through and find find the perfect supplier, right? So people also don't. We always talk about the three aspects of your product that you need to think about: the cost of that product, the size of your potential order, and the quality you're looking for. And you also want to find a supplier that can match up with that, right? You don't want to take your first initial order of a product you're not sure of and you need some help kind of engineering with to a factory that's kicking out 100,000 pieces a week, because they're going to be too big and they're not going to care about your order.
Right.
But then you also, with $50,000 order, you don't want to go to a supplier where you're going to be 70% of their business, because they probably don't have the capacity to kind of deal with your product and get exactly.
They have one little snag and they hang up your order.
Right. Or they have one linchpin
engineer
or supplier or something, and he doesn't show up to work one day and everything crumbles.
Oh gosh. Okay. So are you saying
Matt's got a good point.
Go ahead. What was you saying?
I was going to say Matt's got a good point, because you're talking about a lot of the people you're saying that are coming here are beginners, and and have $5,000 or $10,000 that they scraped over, maybe meaning a little bit less. You have more time than you have money. Doing the research first is actually going to help you find the best price, probably the best person to work with. So you're kind of laying down the groundwork to make sure that you're getting the most for your money.
So when somebody's looking for a supplier, you said cast a wide net. Are you saying that, is there a minimum, like if you don't contact at least 20 or 10, you are going to shoot yourself in the foot? It seems like to me that 30 to 50 is a lot of trying to contact for somebody who's just getting their feet wet. Can you talk about that, and can you talk about how you would track all that data that you got to keep up with 30 to 50 different companies if you were doing that much?
Basically.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was going to say, basically, you just want to take a basic email template, reach out, ask a general amount of questions. Where's your factory located? How big is the factory? How many employees do you have? What products do you specialize in? It doesn't have to be this long diatribe of, show me your business proof, show me this, I want to meet the owners of the corporation. That can come later on down the line when you're bigger. But one thing I like to also remind people is if a supplier is too busy to get back to you and tell you how many people they have, they probably aren't that interested in the order in the first place. You should take that as kind of a warning sign. So it doesn't have to be this long thing. You just throw it up on a little Excel sheet. This factory is in this location. They have this many people. They specialize in these products.
And why is the location that important for somebody over here that doesn't really know much about the geography of China?
Well, there's a couple of things. I guess that's kind of an advanced course. It's something we always ask because for us, getting a general idea of the location will also tell us a bit about, there's a lot of manufacturing clusters in China, right?
Okay.
And you have kind of a price advantage.
So somebody tells.
Okay. Actually,
Right.
That was another question that somebody brought up. Let's see if I can find the question. It was about, okay, here it is. Boris asked this question. How do you know when it's a red flag when finding a supplier? How do you know when it's a red flag when finding suppliers? How to ensure supplier manufacturers from raw materials agreed upon are not switching to cheap ones? How important is it to find a supplier in a city known for a certain product in question? Is it better to avoid one that is not located in that city? Product different? So that's the question I think that you were just talking about is, okay, there's a city that there's like 14,000 manufacturers that make nothing but ceramic floor tile. Should you avoid a company that's not located in that cluster where they all are doing floor tile?
I'll take this one, Matt.
Yes,
I think what you should do is that the clusters actually play an advantage for you, because when you have so many suppliers in one area, they're all competing against each other, and they're all competing for your business. So that's actually an advantage for you. So like when you talk about the floor tiles, ceramic floor tiles, that's good because all the raw materials are closer to in ceramics. All the specialization, all of the other steps that are not happening within the factory are also happening in that area. So that's why finding manufacturing clusters can be an advantage for you. As far as how do you make sure that people don't switch over to raw materials, that just goes through like quality control. You're getting samples of things, you're confirming. When you need to make your product, you're making a pre-production sample. We call it a PPS, confirming that the materials are the same. Having someone go QC the facility as you're doing manufacturing, and making sure that the products are the same, and the raw materials are the same. This is kind of just the basic things that you do. But I also can imagine if you're doing a small order and you can't spend $2,000 to go QC and people fly over back and forth. A good thing is just having your samples made, confirming that the materials are the same, and as production's starting, you request a QC guy to go there, which costs like $300 a day, making sure that the sample that you received and the materials that they're starting to make are the same, and that's going to be kind of the best way you do it. And it also starts in the beginning and then you go, hey, these aren't the same, you know. And it's not always malicious. That's another
Right.
thing, you know. Sometimes it just happens because someone's not paying attention, you know. So if you're able to help pay attention,
so fast.
yeah. So if you're there, if you can actually go there and check in the beginning and making sure that doesn't happen, money's not lost. So if you go to the end and everything's done, and you go to them, hey, these aren't the same, you know, they go, well, I made it all. Yes, it is their fault, but it's also your fault for not confirming the beginning steps to making sure that that you don't run into these type of problems. That's kind of the responsibility of doing manufacturing in China that people don't really realize. You can't set it and forget it. You know, it's really kind of like cooking on gas. You really have to throw your ingredients in. You watch it. You're kind of moving it around. It's complicated. So it's not like throw it in the microwave and 15 minutes later it comes out and you're like, yay, I got my product.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's a big difference between what people's expectations are and what the reality is on the ground in China. Is there that project management is not necessarily included in your price. If you're going factory direct, you are going direct, but that also means you have more responsibility on your shoulders to actually manage that project and make sure it's going to be successful.
So if you're doing a QC situation where you're saying, okay, I got my sample, I'm in the U.S., I've received it, I'm looking at it, but then I'm hiring a QC guy to go in and inspect, how do they know what my sample is? Did I have to send them the sample as well?
Yes.
Okay, so so does it make sense that if I have a QC or inspector kind of service that when I order a sample, I order one sent here and simultaneously I send him the sample as well?
That's a very good move.
Okay, and what about you know, if we're starting with 30 to 50 suppliers, and I guess you X out the ones that don't respond quickly. For example, Alibaba, they have a rating or ranking system to say how, you know, how fast or if these companies are good about responding. How accurate is that? Have you looked at that? They do kind of rank that and say, yeah, this company is not really good at responding to emails or to your
Well,
inquiries.
I think that's a static. I think that's it's kind of not a very good metric because do they answer your questions? You know, they might be answering really quick. They actually just might be doing a response email. Be like, hi, nice to meet you. Here's my catalog, and you've asked for a quote on 1,000 widgets and stuff like that. You know, so I think maybe that will just show you that maybe someone gets back to you, but it really has no rating about how well they answer your questions. And that's why
Okay.
that's why Matt, when Matt was talking earlier, you cast it wide, and you're gonna kind of find out pretty quickly in the beginning that there's going to be people that are just not right for you, you know, and they're just going to drop off, and you're going to be left with 10 people to talk to.
Okay. So would you immediately just strike a company off if they don't respond to you in what, 2 days, 3 days? I mean, I'm imagining if you're sending out a lot of emails, you have to go back and look. Oh, wait a minute, this guy hadn't even responded, and it's been 3 days. Do you try it again, or you just say, no, he's done, I don't have time for this?
My personal experience is that we don't chase them unless they do a very specific product and they have a specific skill set, excuse me, that you need and that you've kind of qualified, and you go, this guy seems perfect. So if you're kind of just shooting out there and you're saying, okay, I'm just trying to get an idea about what the product is, I'm trying to learn more about it by the questions I ask them and the responses I get back. If you kind of find some people, you go, wow, this one's like perfect. It's got my product. It's got like the colors I want, and it's like got the specifications that I really need. Well, that's one maybe you're going to want to chase down a little bit. But again, don't hitch your boat to that or your wagon to that, because if they don't work out, you're kind of really boxing yourself in. So
Okay.
I would say if they're really specific in what you need, yeah, definitely go for it. But if they still are specific in what you need, but they don't get back to you, you want to kind of keep moving along.
Well, one of Dawn's fears, she said she had a fear of how to speak to the Chinese suppliers. So if you send out this generic email on the front end, kind of like saying, hey, I'm interested in your company, I want to see what you guys have to offer, I want to know where you're located and how many products you can produce and what products do you produce, you already know that they produce something that you're looking for, or you probably wouldn't be talking to them. Are you just
Correct.
trying to suss out where they stand, how they fit into the range of companies that are producing that. Like, again, how big they are and how much they produce will tell you whether you're dealing with a super mega manufacturer who don't have time for a small fry like me. So you're trying to find that range, that bell curve where they fit in.
Yeah.
What questions should you not ask in that first email that might affront? Are there things you could ask that would either insult them, cultural issues, or would reveal your naivete that might make them think, well, this guy's a brand new piker and I'm going to take advantage of him, or I don't want to deal with him because of that.
Let's see.
Yeah. I think that you do want to be careful. I think that the quote-unquote cultural thing, I think it gets overplayed. Everybody's here to do business, and money talks, and you guys can guess at what walks here. So I think that what you're trying to do, one thing is find out, hey, do these guys say they make porcelain plates and snow tires and living room furniture and industrial adhesives? Are they just like a jack of all trades who's doing everything, or do they have a very strict product focus? And are they making logical? Is their product range logical? Like if they're just an expert in rubber and they make a bunch of rubber products, or they're an expert in auto parts and they make a kind of a range of auto parts. What we don't want to see is beach toys, auto parts, industrial chemicals, all jammed into one page or one thing where they're obviously just kind of sourcing around from a bunch of stuff. I think.
So you're saying they're not manufacturers, probably, that they may just be brokers then?
They could be they could be, or they could be manufacturing all that junk, which is even worse. They could be making all that stuff, and they're going to make, they're going to get a C- or a D+ on quality for all this stuff because they're making this range of products that doesn't make any sense, doesn't have, a similar raw material base. It's kind of all over the board. So I think that clue there is to see, what does that product range look like? And we also ask, where are they exporting this stuff? Are they sending this all to, South America? Are they sending this all to the Middle East? Are they sending all these products to, Canada or something? So that also gives you kind of a range of an idea of what kind of quality specifications they're used to having to deal with and match up with.
So you're saying if they were selling it to the Middle East, that they may not have as stringent, that the expectation for quality may not be as high from that customer that orders from there?
Or it could just be different, right? There could be different quality expectations.
Not high or low.
We see it all over the kind of ranges. Australia has is a real stickler for anything that has to do with wood. Any wood product has to get sanitized before it goes there, so it makes it really difficult. Sending anything into Russia is a nightmare. Sending these products to this place, all these areas have different quality standards, different testing that they need to go through. So it kind of gives you an idea of what this supplier is used to doing if you really know your specifications. And then that's another huge point: is do not rely on your supplier to come and tell you what the import requirements are for your country. If they're sending stuff to 15 different countries, they do not have all of these product specifications memorized. So that's on the buyer, because you're going to be the importer of record.
So can you maybe go through kind of a checklist, which is, if you're talking to my audience and you were schooling them, hey guys, if you're new to this and you haven't yet sourced your first product, here's kind of the checklist I would go down. I would get my 30 to 50 suppliers. I would contact them. I would ask these range of questions. I would see who responds. I would whittle them down. Then what's the next step? You need to order X number of samples, and how many samples should or could they order with about the same amount of money? Because I know that if you order one sample, you could probably order 4 samples or 10 and fit in the same box, right, and it won't cost any extra. And then this is your next step after you get your samples, and up to the point where now you're starting to ask for maybe possible changes to improve quality, or maybe make changes to the product to make it to differentiate it from other private label products.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that first step, and I would get those samples. We usually ask for stuff that they would have in stock. So if they have a similar product to what you're looking for, it's easy for them to just say, hey, I got one of these sitting right next to me. I'm going to throw 5 of them in a box and ship them out to you. If they have that stuff in stock, usually they'll most of the time they'll send it for free, and you just pay the shipping. It gets expensive, like you said. Once you get that sample in, take a look at it, see where the quality issues are, think about the tweaks that you want to make. I would go back to the supplier after you have those samples and talk to the supplier and say, hey, we received these samples. Can you get me a price quote on X, Y, and Z? And can you tell me of quantities? And can you tell me what the cost is going to be to open artwork and put my own label on this? What's the cost going to be to change these things? And for the most part, usually I look to avoid opening new molds, right? So you want to make some small changes that you can make easily without having to drop, $1,000 on a new mold. So usually I go back to them and figure out what does it look like to what kind of customization are you trying to do, and what does that look like in terms of lead time and cost, and then make kind of a decision about what you want to do.
Let me give you an example of a product I was looking at. It was a 3-compartment plastic food storage container that people use to maybe they'll cook all their meals for a whole week and they'll put them in the freezer and pop them out. And I was looking at different companies that produce these, and there's a whole range of what could be done. There's colors, there's some that seal all 3 compartments and supposedly don't leak and that sort of thing. When I started looking at the manufacturers, they do manufacture all types of other containers. And I'm thinking, yeah, but they don't have the exact container I'm looking for. If I see that a manufacturer has like 30 or 50 different types of containers, plastic food containers, can I expect that if I have something that's slightly different, that they don't have it, that they should be able to make it, or am I asking for a mold change at that point?
You'd be asking for a mold change right there. But it also might be that it might be easy. So it's worth to explore sometimes, But usually what we do is we try to find the product that, when our customer's requesting something from us, we try to usually find something that's very specific in order to help avoid the mold fees, But if you can't, sometimes it's just as easy to ask, and they say, okay, well, this is an easy change for us. So it's also good to just ask how much it is. You never know; it might be worth your time.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with Todd. You do look kind of like Guilfoyle on Silicon Valley. I don't know if you've seen that show. It's awesome.
I have seen that show.
Huh?
I have seen that show. I just didn't think I was handsome as him.
Yeah. Really? Well, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to give you that much. I mean, maybe it's just long hair and a beard, and glasses.
Probably.
And you kind of but he's saltier than you. I'll have to say that. But anyway, thanks for the comment, Todd. So I guess that's some of the things I have noticed looking at Alibaba suppliers is that you can go check out their actual website, and then there you usually can see their whole portfolio of products. And it has kind of disturbed me that, okay, here's another company that makes food storage containers, but they also make, ball bearings that go in a race for, a specialized mechanical, industrial product. And I'm thinking, how did they get to the point where they're making plastics over here, but over here they're making, metal ball bearings for a skateboard insert for the wheel or whatever? How do companies wind up doing that disparate,
I think that's, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there a little bit, but I think what that is kind of it's a bit of a residual leftover from the famed state-owned enterprise, right? So China used to basically build these gigantic state-owned factories whose goal was not necessarily to be profitable. Their goal was to create jobs, right? So
they were favorite son type manufacturers?
I mean, maybe not favorite son, as in the fact is that
Nah.
like they're not profitable. I mean, they're not really making money. They're these huge, these huge conglomerates of that are basically just like it would be like if the federal government in the U.S. decided to own factories, right? And you would see everything. People maybe think that they're locked into their position. They don't really have to work too hard. They're not breaking their back to do a good job for you because they don't.
You're describing Solyndra, but of course they go out of business over here after they take millions of
Yeah,
dollars from the federal government. They just go out of business.
So in China, they don't go out of business; they stay in business, and there's a weird kind of it's a weird kind of change going on now because these were still kind of going strong in the early 2000s and stuff before the financial crisis, but after the financial crisis, the first financial crisis, we'll see what happens this time. But after that first one, it kind of thinned out the herd quite a bit, and yeah, it wasn't such a. It's kind of like a dying off. I mean, these companies are big. They are not. Usually, they're not profitable, and they're kind of propped up by the government as basically job creators. And
so how can I when I'm looking at an Alibaba supplier, is that my only clue? Okay, they've got 4 or 5 disparate products that have nothing to do with each other. I'm just going to stay away from them because they're probably one of these. Or is there any other reason to stay away from them besides that? And is that just enough of a reason to always steer clear of companies like that?
yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I'll just say, in my experience, it just means that they're not really focused on the product that you're going to need. 2, they might be a trading company, and they're just not focused on the quality and the product that you're going to need. It's just too diversified. I would just stay away from it. So if someone's doing ball bearings and then rubber tires, but then also making kids items, you're just way all over the place, you know.
Right.
But if you're in like a sector where it's like ball bearings go along with nuts and types of other kind of same industry, same sectors, like that makes sense. Yeah.
I think the other thing to remember too is all of these things are about opportunities, right? So if you find somebody that offers you a crazy low price, you know, and like I said, it might be one of these state-owned corporations that doesn't really care that much about profit, and they're like, wow, geez, 100,000 whatever bearings, that's gonna get these guys jobs. It might be worth it, right? So you really have to be deciding. One thing the reason that Jamon and I never go to the casinos is we're dealing with risk appetite and risk management every day on every project with every supplier, right? How much do I want to push them here? How much do I want to really take this super low price and try to make it work, you know? And we've done that with some projects where we go to a supplier whose quality level is not the best, you know, and we know that they're not great, and we have to kind of go in there and hold their hand and micromanage every step. But if you can do that, you can come out a big winner. So money, and you've got $3,000 or $4,000 that you scrape together. Don't put it all on red and roll the dice, right? You want to make sure that you're locked in. If you're doing, we have a little bit of a different situation where we're looking to kind of be a little more aggressive gambling and really take a swing at things. And that's kind of what our business is kind of understanding that risk and managing it.
Okay. I'm trying to think through the process and some of the questions I've had and plus the questions that we've got in the room here, because you guys have probably have done this so much that, and plus I don't know how much you guys even spend on Alibaba. I'm sure that you've graduated past that. And I guess somebody asked this question. Let me see if I can find the question. Okay, here we go. Ray was asking, surely there's another and better way around Alibaba. What is the secret? Is there one?
Well, I don't think there's not really a surefire way. I mean, we continue to use sources like like global sources,
Made in
Alibaba,
China.
made in China, but we also use the Chinese version of Alibaba, which is all in Chinese.
That Tabo.
Taobao. Well, no, Taobao is like the eBay of China. It's just
Okay.
it's not a manufacturer. It's like more like wholesale or one-off products or something like that. So we still do use these things. I think how you say we've graduated in a certain way. The way we've graduated is just we understand the system so well, and we have kind of a process is how we roll through these guys. Like we said, you set the net wide. When we get a new product from one of our customers, to say it's a beginning learner's bike, that has no pedals on it for a little kid, we can go out and check all the suppliers who have that, put out our specifications to them, how many we need, how long does it take to make, do you have these certifications? They get back to us, the 20 comes down to 10 or 8. From the 8, we're continuing to drill down. We're saying, okay, let's get some pictures, let's get some real specifications on this model. I like this model, I like that model. Let's talk about pricing now. Can you do cartons? Can you do fold out? Things like that. So that's the secret really is not finding another source besides Alibaba, but about learning how to utilize those people, because all those places, everyone who is a manufacturer is using places like Made in China or Global Sources or Alibaba in order for people to contact them. There isn't some guy Chinese guy who has a connection with all the other suppliers.
Well, that's the question I have. Is there like a dark web of Chinese manufacturers that are not on these sites? Because if they're not on these sites, does that mean that they're just not clued up enough to do business with Americans?
No, it's just that they don't have an outward sales team. So maybe a secret is that you got to speak Chinese. You got to have a Chinese team.
Unfortunately,
because we do have some of our best suppliers do not have websites, are not on Alibaba, but yet they do have foreign clients and things like that.
So how did you find those guys?
Just this is like how I said, it's through.
That's the secret.
Yeah, we just find them, on search webs, and things like telephone
trade
books
shows,
and things like that. Trade shows.
We'll go to trade shows. We'll go to fabric markets, material markets, and hang around and just try to cold approach people, which I think that's on some 8th level black belt stuff. But yeah, Jamon's pretty good at that. He's got a trustworthy face, and Chinese people like him. They think he's Israeli, so that's good.
They probably think he's on the show.
Yeah, I mean, so that's definitely a technique that we use quite a bit, is going to trade shows. And in fact, we usually avoid, if somebody comes up and they have a very polished English-speaking sales staff, they're probably not a good match for us, because that's not a service we need. That might be something that somebody from the first time will definitely need, but for us, we're past that. So when I look at that, I just see, I see a supplier who's spending extra money on English-speaking sales staff and is probably going to have to build that into my cost. So it's probably not a service that I need. Now, again, that's something that it comes with a lot of time and experience, but when we go out there shopping, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who takes pride in their work, is a small company, makes it one product, and they make it really well, and that's what we want. But that's because we don't need somebody to do project management. We have people to talk with them directly in Chinese and really manage the whole thing. So
how big is a company like that? When you say a small company that does one product, when they're small, what's a capacity level of a small company that's still big enough to make enough products?
Well, we have some suppliers, one in particular who makes one type of product that has maybe 25 employees, and they've got 25 employees, and they do manufacturing in a building that's a little bit bigger than our office building. And they're just very streamlined. The guy who owns the factory, it's really one of these force of personality guys who just is a larger than life personality, and he kind of runs the whole thing with just his force of personality, and it's a dangerous situation to be in, because if he doesn't show up, he is not, then the product's not happening. So it's a bit of a risk, but it's worked for us for years now. And
okay, for this particular one manufacturer, like how many units can they produce in a week or a month? And just to give me an idea of what a 25 person
total capacity, I think they make maybe 15,000 units of this product that we're looking for. But they also, what they're specialized in is being able to do very low runs, right? So we get this business because we can make 100 pieces custom, 100% custom, 100 pieces of these products. So I can go back to my clients and charge them, we make 100% profit. I just double what our cost is, because there's nobody else that can make these quantities in China. So we found ourselves a diamond in the rough, built a relationship with this guy. He keeps the pricing low, and we bring him steady, consistent business, and everybody's happy.
I guess the reason I'm asking this is that if I'm dealing with a smaller manufacturer and like this, a small mom and pop shop, but they do a good job, if they're doing 15,000 items a month, how many different clients would they be selling to? And in other words, is there enough room for them to add a new client without them getting, whacked up in their production ability?
Yeah, well, that's the tough part, because if you do kind of place that bet on these guys that they're going to be there, and they need your help when they need orders, if you don't have a strong relationship and somebody comes walking down the street and they've got a good order that's going to fill 60%, 70% of their capacity for 3 months, you might get bumped.
So that brings up another question.
Production line a little bit.
That brings up another question, and you probably should have 2 or even 3 suppliers so that you're not left hung out to dry because any one supplier has an issue like that, where they get bought out, or Amazon comes along and says, we'll just take all your production.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that comes back to what we talked about with having cast a wide net and really developed a good supplier. So we always talk about going for the Olympic podium, right? You want your gold, silver, and your bronze level supplier, your 1, 2, 3. If one's your perfect supplier, and you got to have at least have discussed and seen a sample and talked to, for us, we visited these 3 suppliers and we made our decision about what our if it's the first part of fleshing it out is like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You're trying to find out the porridge, which one's right, too hot, too cold, just right, and then you want to have that 1, 2, 3 a tiered backup, so that if something does go wrong, especially heading into these big holidays, Chinese New Year,
Okay.
we've had this happen to us where we place an order. I told you I can make all that stuff in 35 days. Well, now I need 60 days. Well, you just got bumped.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that just kind of has come from us, from just having it, unfortunately, have it happen to us and have our production moved.
All right. I'm going to go back to Boris because he had like 3 questions in one. How do you know when it's a red flag when finding suppliers, or how to ensure that the supplier is not switching the raw materials, etc.? Is there other red flags other than, okay, they make a bunch of different products? Let's just say they don't make a bunch of different products. How do you then compare the 10 or 20 you have left to say, I'm scratching this guy off and this is why?
I like to ask specific questions in the emails to ask for a specific type of response, and if they, like Jamon said, if you come back and you ask for a quote for 1,000 pieces in these different colorways, and they come back to you and just send you a catalog and like, we have many products that our foreign customers enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, they're not really actively responding to you. So, I think one thing to think about when this qualification process, yes, you want those hard numbers and those hard details, but you also want to be like, hey, is this somebody I want to do business with? Is this somebody I want to work with? And is this somebody I trust to give money to? There are a lot of things that are not super, specific as easy as those to see if they make a bunch of different products. But yeah, one thing is, what else? I'm trying to think. We do a lot of on-ground inspections at the facility. and if they can't send you a copy of their valid business license, if they make excuses or they won't send you a scan of it, that's a big problem.
Okay, and is that
Yeah, I
a
mean,
typical?
you don't want to ask for that stuff. You don't want to ask for that stuff like right away in your first email. This is something you want to ask after you've whittled down to your top 3 suppliers work with, and then you're ready to spend some money with them. Be like, hey, one last thing. I'd like to see, a valid business license about who you are, and because you're going to be sending this money to an account, and you want that account and this name to match up. So it's kind of the
So
last
does
step. You don't want to
Does
be sending out
China?
the first like.
So does the Chinese government require that all manufacturers have a specific license, or are there different licenses for different types of products?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, but it's all going to be in Chinese.
So they all have to have a basic. Yeah, but they all have to have a basic, valid, current business license, which is kind of a all-inclusive ability to be engaging in business, right? So chemical manufacturers will have to have different kind of requirements and stuff, but a basic business license is kind of the first step. And every factory, every legal facility has to have it, and they all have to have them displayed at all times, right? So we've gotten this before where we show up and they're like, oh, the business license is out being cleaned, or we moved it somewhere else. At first we'd be like, oh, yeah, well, okay, I can see how you have to clean it sometimes. It gets dirty.
Or a good one is you go to the facility and it's a different company. You find out you're with a trading company, and that's happened with me a couple of times. You go in and some guy comes, picks you up at the train station and go, oh, great, well, how long to the facility? He's like, 1575 minutes. I don't know. Yeah, and you get there and you go, yeah, this is our facility. We cooperate with them. And you go, okay, great. And I can read Chinese, but, I look at the business license and I go, your company is this company says that. And he goes, oh, well, that's where we cooperate together comes out. And, it all depends how hard you want to push. Like if you're just going and looking at places, you're not going to start pulling out the books. If you're really going to start spending money with these guys and they know it, and it's going to be quantities, that's the type of homework you're going to do. But maybe it's not applicable to the guys who we're talking to today. It's, for them to look at a business license might be difficult for them. But I think asking the right questions about, do you have one? Can I see it? Just getting them to have the action to do it is also a good thing to see that things are going okay.
So if
what's a good way for people who aren't on the ground in China to try to verify, and I would if you've gotten past this point where you're sampling and you're ready to put down money and you're scared, you're worried about making that deposit, that's the time when you want to, before you pay for production, that's the time you want to have all that stuff in line. A business license, a bank account, and all you're looking for there is that the name matches each other. The name on the license matches the name on the bank account that you're supposed to send money to.
Yeah, you never ever want to send PayPal. Don't send not wire transfer, but what is Union?
Western Express or
Western
Union. Excuse me.
Don't do Western Union. Yeah, it needs to be wire transfer. It's the safest way to go. And also, you just want to make sure that the name is correct. Now, if it is 3 Chinese characters, right? Let's just say Li Taifeng, and you just want to make sure, say, okay, maybe I will pay into a personal account. I really don't want to, but if you're doing small orders, you need to make sure that it's the person's name who's on the business certificate at least, because it also has happened sometimes where the guy is just a sales guy, puts his name on the bank account. He's like, yeah, send it to my bank account. I'll make sure. It doesn't mean that they're gonna steal from you. Maybe sometimes they will, maybe sometimes they won't, but you don't have that risk.
So you're saying
it needs to be at least attached to the guy's
skimming a little
name.
bit of commission off the top?
Could.
So that brings me
Could
back.
be, or if you're just. Oh, go ahead.
So that brings me back to your example where the guy picks you up at the train station and he's not really the company. He's kind of cooperating with the company. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but is it because he didn't tell you that he's doing that he's not being upfront and trustworthy? In other words, if he says, "Look, I represent several companies that make this product. I can find you the best product because I'm really familiar with the different companies that do this." Is there anything wrong with you using a middleman?
I think using a middleman sometimes can be to your advantage. You just pointed out all those specific things. If
especially when
they
you're
could
just
be,
getting started.
yeah, if they can be your man or woman on the ground to talk to people and get things done, and they provide a good service for you, I mean, it's totally worth it to pay them maybe the 10% or whatever they are charging on top of it if the money still comes to you, or if the product still gets done. Now,
But
what I
yeah,
don't like
you
about
were
trading
talking about
companies,
that specifically, yeah, is that the trustworthiness. Can they be upfront with you? Can they talk about what they're doing honestly? Will they offer you a clear
Matt, are you there?
picture, or are they just trying to muddle the to you can find a way to get them to legitimately say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you. This is what it's going to cost. Then it's okay. But the people trying to hide everything, for us, that's always a big red flag, and it's tough to do business that way.
Okay. Um, and then when you said, "Hey, you need to match up the company name and the bank accounts," where do I find this information? I mean, a lot of these Alibaba listings, it looks pretty good when they show you lots of photographs of their items, different angles, and then they show lots of pictures of their corporate headquarters and their machines. Then a lot of times they're showing, all of these spec sheets, and their, I guess, their certifications and that kind of thing. Is that stuff you can trust? And how do you know that? How do you know if they're not just putting up something that looks like a? I mean, they're pretty good at getting stuff printed, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I could put together a fake factory right now and list it on Alibaba and take a bunch of pictures. I mean, I think it is really tough if you don't have somebody on the ground. If you really want to verify and confirm what you're doing, you don't have somebody to go do that audit for you, unless you kind of go and see, hey, does the bank account name match up to the factory name that they're claiming? If you're just looking at pictures, there's always going to be some trust. There's always going to be some risk and something you're going to have to trust, unless you're going out and hiring a third party to go audit or look and inspect the factory. It's difficult. So, I mean, I'm sure people are always weighing, hey, the cost of flying to China and the time and the expense of that over the risk and the exposure you have working with a small supplier. It's difficult.
On the other hand, I've done a lot of these interviews. I've talked to some of these guys that say, I've been doing business with China now for 5 years, and I've bought lots of different stuff, and I've never been ripped
Sure.
off. I just pick a
Right.
cut, I send them the money, and they send me my stuff as long as they get them quality. Hey, Jamon, I see that you're having a side conversation about
yes,
PayPal. Can you address the question
yeah.
in the room about why PayPal is bad or why you shouldn't want to use it?
Well, what I was just trying to say is that PayPal for lower quantities and samples, I think is okay because it's basically it's pretty low risk, just like what you were saying. You're saying you paid suppliers and everything's been okay. At the end of the day, unless the PayPal is a business account and it's attached to their business license or it's attached to their business, it's still a personal account. I'm talking about where you're looking to where if you get a sample and stuff like that and you're going to try to get your money back, I guess you can make a complaint in PayPal, right? That you could say, hey, I've received these 200 products. I don't know, like a week later or 2 weeks later, unless you have an escrow service, and I've noticed that sometimes there is some kind of escrow service, but you can make a complaint to PayPal, but how are you going to get your $3,000 back?
Yeah, I don't think
And you might get it back.
PayPal has a limit anyway, don't they?
You can have it lifted depending on what type of accounts that you have.
Well, I have also heard from other sellers that PayPal doesn't like private label products because that's like a customized thing, and it's not like they can take the product back and sell it to somebody else at this point.
Yeah, I mean that point I'm really not sure. I just think safest way when you're doing larger quantities for your product is wire transfer. Now, while PayPal is really easy, it's clicked. It's a click and point, and you can just pay for things, and it's also can be attached to your credit card. I think I agree that it is easier, but if you're going to start doing larger quantities, I would avoid that. I've had guys, try to buy 5,000 units of socks with their credit card, and I'm just like, man, can't do it, man. Through PayPal, they want to pay through PayPal, and just one is just the charges. The charges they get hit are just very large. So I hope that explains about why we don't use
Sure.
PayPal for large services.
And that is
larger
another
quantities.
question. Why don't manufacturers take any credit cards? Like, I guess if you go to AliExpress, you can use your credit card, but I've never heard of any manufacturer taking a credit card. Why wouldn't they if it was a smaller order, like, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth, and you had a credit card that could cover it?
Because most likely credit card culture is really not a big thing here.
Super different here, yeah.
Yeah,
Very,
it's a cash life here.
Right. It's just kind of starting to be getting used, and there were bank cards. People just have the money deducted directly from their bank card. Credit card is a very new idea in Asia in general, I think.
Okay. Greg is asking.
But at the same time, just like I'm sorry.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
I was just going to say, just at the same time, they have to buy the machine and they have to pay for the service monthly, and I'd say that service that they would offer would be very, very low. So the monthly fee that they have to spend and the machine that they'd have to buy and everything like that, like they'd probably use it almost never. You know what I mean? And they don't know how to market it as well.
Okay. Greg is saying, doesn't Alibaba have an escrow service? They have trade assurance. I know that.
I believe they do have some kind of escrow service, and that could be a way for you to park your money in one place into another. But you also have to find a supplier who agrees to those terms.
Okay. Wayne is asking, what things should someone not do or say that would scare away a good supplier? They're like, I don't want to do business with you because you said this or you did this.
Tell them you want to ask for terms right in the beginning and you haven't even gotten a price yet. Terms meaning that you don't want to pay for the product until you've had it for 60 or 90 days.
Now, do any manufacturers, suppliers ever even offer that? If you've established a relationship after a while, is that something you can evolve to that type of transaction?
You would have to be, working together for a very long time. It's very rare now. Back in the day when Matt and I were here, how many years ago was that, Matt? 7 or 8? They were still doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time. After the financial crisis, a lot of people got burned, and the party stopped. So we do have some deals with that with some suppliers.
Yeah. It still works for us because we're on the ground here. We have a Chinese company, so they know that we're not just going to pick up and leave or disappear. But I think that since that kind of financial crisis, getting some kind of basic terms of net 30 or something with a deposit is not unheard of after you've been doing business together for a while. But just realize that it's something that you're gonna have to pay for, right? You're either gonna get a lower price on the product, or you're gonna get terms, or you're gonna get better quality at that same price. But you can't have all of those things.
2 out of 3.
Depends on what's most important to you.
Right. Zach is asking, how can I verify a business license that's in Chinese? So you probably have to have somebody that can read it and compare it and say, even if you have somebody.
It's not necessarily about verifying. Yeah, it's not about verifying that it's legal. What you're looking for is, one, the license current. Is it accurate, right? Is it valid? I've walked into some of these factories and the business license has been expired 3 years, and they show it to you. You're like, oh, great, but I can see right here in English the date that it's expired. It's 3 years old.
So does that mean they're operating illegally in the purview of their government?
Yes.
Okay. And so
it's like if you're driving,
is that a risk for them? How do they get away with it for 3 years? They just hadn't been complained on yet?
Yeah, it'd be like if you wanted to drive your car with expired tags, right? You might not get pulled over right away, and you might get away with it for a while. Eventually, you're probably going to get nailed.
So are there government, supplier, cops, or manufacturing police over there?
I don't think there are specific manufacturing police, but yeah, there's definitely people who are looking to, for one reason or another, are looking to find and suss out these violations, right? I mean, if China's trying to become a worldwide global powerhouse, they can't have these, little factories just running rampant, or people doing business running rampant. So that's been been a focus in the last 10 years that we've been here for sure, is kind of going from that wild, wild west where you're basically just kind of on your own as a foreign buyer here, to actually having a fairly robust and developed legal system and system of courts and all this kind of stuff. So this stuff takes time and it's developing. But yeah, there are
That's
some
kind of the way
protections
I
for
view.
buyers there.
That's kind of the way I view Alibaba as well. Is it was probably like the Wild Wild West when it first got started, but now that it's been around, they're starting to put in more and more controls or ways to verify or vet manufacturers. And manufacturers realize if they get kicked off, it's like getting kicked off of Amazon. You're going to shut down if you don't have the access, so they don't want to maybe
Right.
cross the line on that. I
Well,
want to
that's
go
what you
back.
said too about the one more. I just wanted to follow up on that point you made earlier about these guys saying, "Hey, I've been working with these folks for 5 years and never got ripped off at all." Sure, it happens all the time. Right? I mean, people want to do business. Everybody wants to make money. If you agree on a decent price and your orders are consistent and stable, you could be fine.
Okay. I want to go back to when you said earlier about, okay, you get this person that sends you the whole catalog when you ask for 1,000-unit quote on price. What if how do you know that you're not just dealing with a bad server at a restaurant? I mean, the restaurant may be good, but you might be just dealing with a lackey or the newest salesperson they put to work. They just don't know how to deal with you. Would you go around that person, ask for a different representative if you thought that they look good on paper? Surely they can't be. Their whole company can't be based on the way this one person's treating me.
Sure, if you really have that inkling that they could be good, or based on research they look great, or they're, for me, if the location is somewhere I can get to, that's the first thing I always do, is go visit them and see what they look like. I know that's not necessarily what your audience is looking to hear, advice-wise, but yeah, I mean, that's why our industry exists as a whole, and what Damon and I do, which is be on the ground, verify things, and if there's a problem, the supplier calls us. I'm on the plane. I'm visiting them the next day. So yeah, I think that is a valid thing to say, hey, look, I've done my research. These guys look great. They're in the right manufacturing cluster for this. Their website says they're big. Maybe see if there's another address. I mean, for us, what we do is call them. I know that's not necessarily an option. But yeah, try to reach out again and find a different way. Maybe they have a Skype ID on their website. Maybe they have different. If you go to their website, there's a different email address than there was on Alibaba. There's different ways to kind of go around and try to contact people and try to contact suppliers and see if that was just a one-off issue or if there's deeper issues with their company, because hiring in China is not easy.
Yeah, but also at the same time, you might be stuck with a sales guy because he might be the only English speaking guy they got.
Right.
So you never know.
Gotcha. Okay. Steven's asking, what does a Chinese supplier perfect client me look like? In other words, what are they looking for from us in order to have a pleasant experience from us?
Walmart.
Okay.
I think
that yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think you just be clear with your specifications. You have good order quantities, meaning that what you say what you're going to do.
Don't ask for pricing for 50,000 and order 500.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so you said
we don't like it either, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to. He kind of broke up, but I think what you said, Matt, was don't ask for a big quantity and then order a small quantity, because then you just bait and switch.
Don't sandbag them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
else don't give them expectations. Be like, oh, this is a sample order, and I'm gonna order, the next one. Just say how it is, because they're also counting on that too, because they're also gonna take a lower quantity at first and work with you, and hoping you're gonna turn into a potential great client. But if 2 months later it doesn't happen, he's like, I gotta get rid of you because you're not hitting the potential that I thought you were, and I'm gonna spend less time on you. Where if
Right. That
what
could
happened,
get
you'll start
rid of
seeing
you.
quality fade of customer service. Where if you're working with a guy and be like, hey, I do 500 units every month, and that's all I do. And the guy's like, cool, and I can expect that from you every month. I love it. And when you go up, he's like, wow, that's even great. But I think that's the biggest thing. You have to be
It's about
clear about your
managing.
requirements,
Yeah, managing expectations, right?
managing
Chinese
expectations.
suppliers
Yeah.
really prize stability and consistency, and they want good quantity, right? So I think if you can focus on that, you can say, I think like we're talking about what James said, be honest. Hey, I'm trying to get this thing up and running. I'll probably order 500 in the next 2 months, and I want to get it up to, 1,500 pieces every other month. Great, okay, but don't tell them you're going to be able to do 10,000 pieces a month by next year if that's 1 out of
Right.
99 chance of that happening.
Okay. Jean-Marc says, what avenues are available for conflict resolution? Is a legal framework available for trade, and is it trustworthy?
Yeah, that's actually where Jamon and I's master's degrees come into play. We both studied in Hong Kong and Chinese business law, so there's a pretty robust arbitration and mediation style of a dispute resolution available in China. And I would say to people that, if you really are doing a decent amount of money, to put an arbitration clause in your contract, in a standard contract, is a pretty good idea. And one thing also to note is that the legal system is not like it is in the U.S., right? You can't, going to court is a last resort, and you will burn your bridges behind you. If you sue your supplier, it's not like in the U.S. where you can sue somebody and then be doing business with them again in 2 years. China, when that happens, it's a big deal, and you're pretty much done. But yeah, I would look at mediation, arbitration, dispute resolution.
Okay. All right. Brian is
Oh,
asking. Brian
yeah,
is
so I was going to
asking.
say one more thing is in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is very big on this alternative dispute resolution. So if you can get your supplier to agree to do any dispute resolution in Hong Kong, it's a pretty good idea.
Well, how willing are companies? Let's say you order your product, you've got your sample, and then they send you your 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 order, and it's obviously flawed. There's a mistake in it, or it's wrong color, or whatever. You could obviously say, "Oh, wait a minute, we said red, you sent us blue." How willing are they usually to work with you on it? Are they going to ask you to return the shipment? Are they going to say just keep the shipment and we're going to remake it? We're going to how do they
Yeah,
handle that?
unless you look like a really good client, you're pretty much screwed. China is a one-way street out at this point, and sending product back and doing that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really, again, where our whole industry kind of takes hold, is being on the ground and doing those QCs, making sure that before you pay for stuff, it's been inspected and confirmed that it is what it is. And that's really where the whole testing and QC inspection industry came up, because it does not go backwards, does not go back to China.
Well, I would imagine you wouldn't send it back, but would they ever say, "Okay, we'll let you keep it. I know you can't use it. We'll just send you some more, and we want you to buy it, but we'll give you a deep discount, maybe their cost." I don't know. Does that ever, I mean, if they're a good supplier, could you
Yeah, that
expect
can
from them?
happen.
Yeah.
You can get
If
some
you've been working with
suppliers.
them for a while, they'll be able to. If you've been working with them a while and they know that this is an advantage, that your lifetime value to them is worth more than just, being terrible at this one, being like, hey, I'm not doing anything for this order. They're gonna figure a way to help you out. If this is your first time cooperating with them, or even your third, that type of me, like getting them to come back and do something for you afterwards, it's going to be hard, because it's untrue, and I think Matt, it's unfortunate rather, but I think Matt will agree, is that you're really only as good as your next order or your
Yeah.
last order. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that you need to show that
I mean, it's a
track
cash
record of being a
business.
stable, good clients. Yeah, I mean, people are still looking to get paid now. They can kind of have a short-term kind of vision, which can be good in some ways and bad in others. You know, if you go to a manufacturing cluster, the guys are willing to cut each other's throat over, 2% because they're all in the same business and they're all selling the same stuff at the same quality level. So yeah, I think while it is very important to do that good QC, if you are, I mean, we have this happen with our suppliers too, where they'll send that product back. It's also pretty standard in China to get, as opposed to doing returns on defective products, to have them just give you an extra amount of product, to give you 10%, 15% extra product, just as a safeguard against what they know is going to come back as returns, because pretty much everybody's well aware in China that, the goods are not going back to China to be remade or whatever. So you either got to deal with it or get some new product.
Brian has a negotiation question. When obtaining price quotes, what are the best opportunities for negotiating a better deal? Do we ask for a price at a higher MOQ and counter with a price at a lower MOQ? Do we always counter at a lower price? Even given your experience, what is the best strategy to obtain the best deal?
I think the best strategy is really doing your homework and understanding the products and trying to get your supplier to kind of give you as much information and details about the raw materials that go into it. The best way to get a good price is to be able to leverage pricing from a couple of different suppliers. Street said he could do this, X, Y, Z, and kind of try to start a bidding war. I think, like we talked about, doing the order quantity switch tango kind of thing is not going to, long term, is not going to be a solution. I think really understanding your product, understanding specifications, and having quotes from 5 active suppliers kind of going into each other is the best way to kind of push that pricing down. Because you're also, I mean, you can push the pricing down a ton. But once you get past the point, if you know that the components you have, if you know that the components that you're using are more expensive than the product that the overall person is quoting out, then that just doesn't add up. And they'll quote you that low price, and they'll hit that low price and just switch materials out, or they'll really kind of dig into it. They're going to get their same margin out of it.
I guess if you were smart, you would. I guess if you're
smart,
on
price, you're going to get bad.
I guess if you're smart, you would look at the competition. Let's say you had 5 to 10 other competitors that are selling virtually the same thing. You're going to get a bell curve price quote on that. You're going to get, if your product costs $7 from this company and another guy's $7.15, and they're between $7 and $8, and one guy's at $5. That might be a red flag right there. And if another guy's at 9 or 10, the ones that are between 7 and 8, and most of them are in that range, it may be worthwhile paying the extra 15 cents or whatever at this other, just so that you're not cutting your nose off to spite your face and creating the situation where they are obligated to give you lower quality items in order to hit your price point, just because you're breaking their arm for the price versus the price and value. So the way I look at it, I might even pay a little bit more if the quality is a lot better, and as long as I got a margin, as long as I can get that price plus my shipping and plus Amazon's fees, I can still make my third, and I'm making my $10 or whatever my target is. Why not really care if it's the cheapest or not?
Yeah, and also just to remember, the cheapest comes with all of those other problems, right? It doesn't come with good customer service. It doesn't come with help when there's a problem. It doesn't, if you just want that, if you push that supplier at that bare bones minimum price, you're going to get bare bones minimum service as well.
Okay. Kay is asking, tell us about some of the major cultural nuances that will impact our business relationship with Chinese manufacturers. I mean, would you say that the Chinese that are on Alibaba expect to do business with Americans, and that we have a cultural stereotype that they realize that we have, which we're forceful, we're in their face, type A's, want it now, so they just expect that to be that way, and they're willing to deal with it? Is it just as much a give and take from their point as well?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I think that the cultural nuances and stuff like that comes more into play when you're visiting suppliers face to face and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that. Yeah, I mean, one thing I've learned is in my time out here is that, patience is rewarded. If you can be patient and slow, and like we said, if you're willing to see a big project and whittle down 50 potential suppliers to a top 5, you're going to find great suppliers. If you want to take shortcuts, you don't really necessarily know when you got it. So it's one of those where suppliers are aware of that. Again, it is suppliers having great English skills. Suppliers who are more aware of that tend to do better in business and are not always looking for those same kind of small orders and looking to be helpful. All companies that are just getting started are much more willing to be flexible. So I think that it could be, personality-wise and stuff. I mean, there are characteristics to people doing business in China, and that's true. I think one thing for people to remember is even though they're dealing with people on Alibaba and it might be different and the language is different, people aren't robots. These people that are selling products are people. They have kids. They go on vacation. They think about college. They think about what they're going to eat for dinner. So the best way to kind of make yourself more personable is to treat them like a person and interact with them in that manner. And try to establish a relationship. Relationships are very important to Chinese. So even if you think it's, obviously, clearly, whatever, make an effort to reach out and be friends. Do they have kids? What are they doing after this? Blah, blah, blah. And that takes a little tact. It's not something you just do right off the bat and ask somebody to be friends with you, but it is something.
Well, yeah,
that
you take a personal interest. Everybody responds to that. I mean, you bring the secretary a box of donuts when you're going in to talk to the big dude. She helps you get in the next time. The last question that Boris had on his multiple question here is, what about product differentiation strategy, customization? How do you look at a typical product that, I see something on Amazon that's selling. It doesn't have a lot of competition. I see there's, a Blue Moon, tons of manufacturers in Alibaba making it. How do I differentiate that product from the manufacturing standpoint? What can I ask them to do that could change it or customize it that's still within their ability to do it without asking to, make a new mold? Are there some standard tips or tricks you guys might recommend?
I mean, I think you could differentiate on maybe like logos, where you're putting printing on things, differentiating on poly bags or packaging. Those are like the super low-hanging fruit that you can get really quick, right? That doesn't cost thousands of dollars by changing up a mold. Now, obviously, every product's different, it's hard to say, but there might be some small changes you can make, or maybe some small mold adjustments, maybe like debossing, on certain areas, and that might be.
What is that? I'm making it unshiny.
No, deboss is like you have a flat surface and then you press into your logo into something. So if you're using packaging, you could do that, or maybe with plastics. With plastics, that might be if you're just going to put it on a lid, maybe opening a lid mold is cheaper than opening up the whole mold, and all you're doing is changing one thing. So I just took that one because it's because you were talking about it earlier. So you really kind of have to know what the product is and how you can change it. And I think maybe as you talk with your supplier more, you can learn about the different options. Whether it's what can I do? Can I put a logo on this? What are different ways I can put a logo on this? And how much does it cost? Start asking those types of questions to try to differentiate the product.
Okay, for example, I was looking at a colander that you could put in your sink. It had like pull-out arms. You could hang it in the sink, throw your spaghetti in there, but it didn't have feet. I thought, that would improve the quality if you had 3 feet where it would sit up on your counter instead of kind of lean over. How hard? Again, is that a mold issue, or is that like, that's not too hard to put 3 bumps on the bottom of a colander if it's made of plastic?
I mean, I guess that's hard to say. And with maybe one supplier, it will be a lot easier, and for another one, they just don't have the capability.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I will say that I do some reviews and top quality reviews with Bridget Williams, and so I review some products. And I recently reviewed a leather wallet that's an RFID wallet protector. It's made out of certain material that scrambles a signal if they try to scan your credit cards or whatever. But you can't see
Cool.
it. You can't see it in the design. When you look at it, it's like, well, okay, it looks like a leather wallet. It looks like the leather
Yeah.
wallet I got in my pocket, actually. But
Yeah.
it came in a very nice, luxurious style box with a
Sure.
top, and it was inserted inside a little plastic sleeve, and then inside the plastic sleeve it had a little paper wrapping around the wallet. So I was impressed with the packaging, and I think with a lot of these products, the packaging can take you 50 or 80% of the way there, and a lot of things.
Oh
So
yeah, sure.
how does, but most of the manufacturers are not doing their packaging, are they? Or are they shopping that out?
Well, they would do their basic packaging, which means, like you just said, if we're taking a wallet, for example, maybe you're doing that paper coating. It's
Yeah.
like a wax or tissue
Yeah.
paper, it
Hmm.
goes around it, and then you want to put a poly bag on top. They can provide that. They do have access to packaging, but they might be charging you a premium for that, and or the second choice might be that they don't have a huge amount of choice. So, this is where you could go on Alibaba or something like that, where you could find box suppliers. Like, they only do packaging, and they could help you in that. But you really just have to figure out, you have to talk to the guy that you're working with at the moment and say, what do you have as far as boxes? They might just like literally show you like 5 boxes, be like, this is what we got. And you're like, wow, this isn't really what I envisioned. That's maybe when you have to go back and kind of work towards, okay, now I want to look at packaging through a packaging supplier. That being said, is that if you're going to go directly to a packaging supplier, the minimums are usually quite high. They'll want you to order 2,000, even though you're only making 500 wallets or 200 wallets. But on the upside is maybe you are going to be making 1,000 or 2,000 wallets over the interim, just not right now. So you
Right.
can actually have them all made, send them to the supplier, and they'll keep them in stock for you. So as you do your orders, they can always just grab right from there as being your packaging.
Exactly. In fact, I just had that. That's a perfect example. I have a product that with the MOQ of 300, and it's a higher price product by the time it gets here, and it's in a big box, and I have to take the 300 items and repackage them into individual boxes. So I've been asking them to, can you come up with a blister pack where it's each individual item has its own cardboard with shrink wrap over it? Because one of the
Mm-hmm.
problems I've had is I've had parts go missing in the typical box that I use. So their MOQ went from 300 to 800 because of the blister packs. And then that was my next step is, okay, if I just go ahead and buy the 800 blister packs but just buy 300 units, can you stockpile the 500 blister packs in the corner for me when I make my next 3 to 500 order?
Sure. Yeah.
And now here's the only problem. They sent me the specs on this blister pack, but the actual image and the graphics on it sucked. I mean, it was like it was not what I wanted. So how do I just get the graphics done? Do I have to go to the Fivers or go to the image guys and say, here? Can I ask them? I mean, I don't even know what the specs are. Can I ask them to send me graphic specs that I can send to a graphics company? They can say, oh, okay, here's the specs on this cardboard. This is how
Oh
much
yeah.
space we have to work on. And
Yeah, you just say, tell me your die lines. By the way, die lines are the areas of where it's going to cut off, on the box, or you're saying blister pack. So you just give me the dimensions that you're going to be doing the printing on. So if it's, 3x3 or 6x6, whatever it is, and you say, give me the areas that I can print in. What is the DPI of the printing have to be? And then, like I said, you would go to do a Fiverr thing, or you would go and get one of your personal guys. Maybe you have some in-house graphic designer dude in your house, and do it for you, and then send it back to him. Say, this is what I'm going to get printed, Yeah, because if you rely on the facility to come up with your vision, it's gonna go haywire. So that's why you want to kind of provide it for them. And I think they would be very willing to give you the dimensions of the packaging, if they're going to be, if it's aiding them to get the order.
Oh yeah, I can see that. So that makes a lot of sense, and I think that there is something to scaling up your packaging. I'm willing to pay the extra $1.25. I mean, the unit cost for these things are around almost $8, $7.90 for my unit, and then it's going to be another $1.25. But heck, I got to buy boxes here, and the boxes here that I buy are about $1 a piece. And then you got the
Sure.
labor to fold them, and then you got to print the label and put on them. So when it's all said and done, I'm probably going to save money. I'm certainly going to save time, and I'm going to
Sure.
have less returns because my parts are not going to go anywhere. Vic is asking this question. We're not going to answer it because I think we've already answered this. I just want to let Vic know that I didn't skip his question. Please cover the specific best practices to find great quality suppliers. I think we've done that. What to look out for, the red flags, and how to get maximum mutual cooperation. I think we've talked about that. Where to look where the masses are not looking. Is there an answer for that one?
Where to look where the masses are not looking.
As far as finding a supplier. But in other words, is there a way to go into Alibaba and ferret out suppliers that most people just don't see because they're not using the right search term for the item? If I go in and search for plastic food containers, there's a lot of companies that call them bento boxes because the Japanese buy them that way.
Sure.
So are there tricks to finding these? And then Matt just disappeared on us. Are there tricks to finding manufacturers that maybe the masses are just not clued up on how to find them or how to use the system that's available?
Let's see. Let's just say we'll use Alibaba as an example because everyone has kind of a current knowledge of that. So the one thing you hit on is correct, key terms. So key terms is one thing, trying different types of key terms. A second thing is, if you look on the left-hand side of Alibaba, you'll see how you can start whittling it down, to different areas, different specifications in different sections. Sometimes maybe plastic bag will be in homeware. It will also be in outdoor area, all that type of stuff. So use the left-hand bar to start whittling down what you want it to be and where. On the top there, you kind of see trusted supplier, you'll see certificates and things like that. Now, if that's another part of your concern of figuring out what type of quality you want according to that, like verified and all that stuff, they said someone's come to look at it, you can use those different bars to start bringing things down. Instead of typing in bento box and then you get 30,000 different suppliers, you can start doing those type of things to kind of hone in into what you're really looking for.
Okay, all right, good enough. Sounds good. Let's see. Gur is asking this question. This is about how you guys operate. What is the difference between what your service provide and those of the multitude of Chinese sourcing agents and Chinese brokers or trading companies or distributors or wholesalers? What will they absolutely not do that you will do? Or what, can you give us a little bit of idea about that?
I'll let my salesman Matt talk.
I think that it is different. We're a bit different because we're a bit of a hybrid between the two. We're not a Western company in China operating, and we're not a Chinese company either. We're Westerners who have lived and worked in China for 10 years. Jamon's got a Chinese wife and partly Chinese daughter. And we both speak the language, and we're here on the ground every day. We're not we're not jumping on this webinar from the Westin Hotel or anything. We live here, and we've gone to school here. I think we offer a different service. We're not necessarily looking for our sourcing business. We're not necessarily looking for small people and to do a wide range of products. We're not a sourcing company. We make a very specific range of products for a very specific type of client, and we do full service. We're not a an a la carte kind of company. We really are like the old school traditional gas stations of the 60s, where we come out and check your oil and scrub the windshield and all that stuff. So we're looking to do everything. We like to take over our clients' buying. We like to buy all the raw materials and arrange to have transported to facilities for assembly, so that we have more control over the timeline. And we also have the responsibility, but we can, it's easier for us to guarantee, when a client comes to us and they're like, okay, here's all my money, and you order the products for me and guarantee they're going to be on time. If we have to guarantee that our supplier and all of our suppliers are going to be on time, it's impossible. But if we have control and we're able to purchase all the raw materials and deliver them to the assembly, store them in our facilities, we offer our clients much more security and a much more stable timeline. Especially the business we're in, timelines for samples and prototypes and bulk production and fashion is very, very important. So that's the type of service we offer, and it is very, like I said, it's very aimed at a specific type of business and industry.
Well, Todd was wanting to know, he originally asked, how much do you charge, what's your cost? He said, maybe I should rephrase it. What is the model you use to pay for your service? Upfront fee, commission?
We add a standard margin to cost of most products. It's difficult. We started off doing that way because most of the products we're working on are in that same price range. So for most of the products, we offer, the client will send us their drawings and their product, and we'll send back a price and negotiate that price based on the quality and the quantity, and we'll add our margin. They'll pay us, we pay the supplier, and we keep the difference.
Okay, all right, good enough. And let's see here. I'm looking to stay in that same vein. Maybe this is not in the same vein. How do you ship your product to Amazon? Do your suppliers do it for you, or you have to use a freight forwarder or a shipping forwarder?
We use freight forwarders. We handle all that for our clients. Again, they will tell us what they need, and we go out and find it, and we add our margin to it. There's a ton of freight forwarders out there, and I would recommend that for people if you're going to buy that product. It seems like shipping it to Amazon on your own. There's a ton of freight forwarders who will specialize in regions or specialize in a type of products. You just got to kind of go out there and sift through them. Again, just like finding a supplier. It really is a service supplier that is going to help you. So find somebody you like that you can agree, you can understand, and it's the same thing. The lower the price, the lower service. We have some freight forwarders. We work with a German company that's amazing, and they are a little more expensive. And sometimes, we have a big order. We had a big order of bags we did for Twitter earlier this year, and they absolutely beat this one specific date. So we paid a premium for it because we wanted that peace of mind, and they showed up 3 days early. So that was awesome.
Cool. Gar says, what product sectors are you guys testing for your own company, and what product sectors? You just mentioned, I think, do you only work in certain product sectors as far as doing this your service for other companies?
Yeah, we primarily work in men's fashion.
Yeah. Right. So that kind of.
I didn't hear you, Jamon.
Oh, I said we primarily work in men's fashion and men's accessories.
Okay. Yeah, men's fashion accessories. And that kind of arose out of just the way we got our business going. But what we're trying to do with running with China is show people, hey, this is a step-by-step process. What we're trying to that can be applied to any product, right? So there's and so we do take new projects on now that are maybe not necessarily directly within our scope, as long as they are along the same lines or at a decent enough volume to kind of be interesting to us.
Okay, all right. Telex is asking a question. Do we need to remove labels with Chinese writing on the individual poly bags when you order from AliExpress before sending it into Amazon? Is that something you guys know about?
I have no idea.
Sure.
Okay. We don't have any products listed on Amazon,
okay.
So it's not really our
So anybody in the chat room that knows the answer to that, you guys can shout it out to Telex. Okay, let's see what Zach has here to say. I have suppliers where they offer competitive price but look to be making money on the shipping. when I tell them I can get my order couriered myself, they inflate the dimensions and weight to get me to choose their postage service. Is there anything you can advise me to do
Wow.
to combat this?
Yeah, I'd hire, just hire a third-party company to go in there to inspect the goods. Because if they're just inflating size, you mean that they're actually changing the packaging to make it physically larger?
So that's what it sounds like they're doing.
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
Or is it saying that they're saying the package dimensions are just a little bit bigger and not putting it in a bigger container?
Interesting. I don't know, Zach. If you can clarify that, come back to us, brother, and tell us how they're inflating those things. Is it actually physically inflating them, or is it just on paper, or what?
But actually, one way just to clarify, to answer that really quick, is that if you have a third-party freight forwarder who's doing express fees for you, you'll get a quote from them according to your dimensions, but everyone goes in and actually measures everything and figures out the real dimensions, because they'll lose money if they just take your quote off of the dimensions that you give you, because if it's air freight or everything, they go by the widest part. So your boxes may be 9 by 9 by 9, but they're kind of bowing out a little bit, around the edges. They don't take it from the corners, they take it from the edge. So they'll come in and measure that. So that may be a way that you maybe combat it, is that you just go with your guy anyway and figure out, hey, Shunfeng or DHL is going to come in and measure this anyway.
Okay. All right. Good enough. That sounds good. Let's see here. Okay. Raymond says, I have a product in hand, a plastic toy. Wish I could find the original factory. Nothing on Alibaba. My HK sourcer gave up. If I cannot find the factory, I will have to pay for tooling. I want to buy a container load. Want to give it a shot. Is that what do you think about that?
possibly, yeah.
So is it a matter or would he be able to find some guy that, I mean, there's probably a city that does nothing but toys, right?
Yeah, well, it could be that this supplier has some kind of exclusive deal for this and isn't willing to manufacture.
It actually won't be on Alibaba because they're not allowed to have the picture up on the site, because it might be an exclusive deal to a certain country where they're not allowed to actually sell that product. So Raymond's product actually might be an exclusive licensing deal with someone, and that's why you can't find it on the internet anywhere, because they're not allowed to have the pictures up on their site. So
Gotcha.
maybe actually finding this supplier will probably be impossible, because the pictures will never be up there. And maybe if you did find the guy to make the same exact toy, they might not do it for you because they have exclusive right deals.
All right, well, this kind of plays right into this. Vanessa says, how about suppliers that say, yes, I can make an exact copy, and others who back away and ask for licensing permissions? The obvious here would be to stay away, total red flag, question mark, or not necessarily. Sounds like
yeah, I mean, this
right.
one's tough. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
this one's a complicated one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the intellectual property violations that we've seen come from the Western buyers who show up with the product and say, hey, just copy this for me, copy this Nike product, blah, blah, blah.
And they'll do it.
Yeah, they'll do it the best they can. I mean, maybe not necessarily the logo and stuff. I mean, we had this issue, like I was talking about, that order with the Twitter bags. We knew that we were using the Twitter logo. We had their permission and all that stuff, but we had to have all that stuff arranged way in advance, because it will get stopped in customs in China these days. It's not the free-for-all it used to be. You can't, put a bunch of Mikey football jerseys up there and just change one letter and keep the swoosh or whatever and get away with it. You do see that at a lot more on a small scale on Taobao and AliExpress and stuff like that. There's a lot more intellectual property violations there. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a huge red flag at the beginning, because most of these suppliers do not. Most of these Chinese factories have no understanding of property as we do. The idea of not to download music for free or free TV shows, people look at you like, what do you have to pay for?
All right, Matt, we're having a hard time understanding you. Matt, you've got your bandwidth is shut down on you, brother.
Busy.
All right, Matt, we lost about 80% of your last transmission. We won't make you repeat it. We'll move on, but I think we got the flow. Donna says, I'm sourcing suppliers from China and Taiwan for skincare products. I can't find any supplier who has FDA-approved certificate. Some suppliers send me photos of FBA sellers' products sold in the USA without any FDA certificate. My question, if I buy from these suppliers without FDA approval, if I buy from these suppliers without FDA approval certificate, I don't know, you didn't finish your question, but I'm going to guess that you should, everything I've heard, conventional wisdom says stay away from lotions and potions that you ingest or rub on your body if you're getting them from China, because it might have lead in it. It's not safe to source your ingestibles or your topicals from China. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes, if they don't have the proper testings and licenses. No, if they have the licenses and you're also willing to do third-party testing.
Yeah, if they don't have it already done and you have to do all the testing, you're going to be spending a ton of money. You better bring your bank. If you're just trying to get the next C serum that everybody else is selling, that's a tough. And by the way, Don, I don't know what your experience is on this, but it sounds like you haven't done it yet. I'm going to tell you, supplements and potions and lotions are like the most competitive, cutthroat area on Amazon. You better bring your A game. You better bring deep pockets is what I've figured out. So it might be something to consider or reconsider. Let's see. Zach says, can you give me some tips to self-check my supplier? I'm asking specifically for suppliers who are not on Alibaba, therefore you can't vet them through Alibaba filters.
I mean, how does he want to self-check? I'm not sure
I think what he
means
is, I think he's saying, can I go down a checklist that I have in front of me and say, ask this question, look for this piece of evidence, have them send me this or scan this and email it to me, and I think that's what he's probably asking. He's probably found a supplier, but he can't click on the on-site check filter that Alibaba has or the trade assurance filter, and so he's found a supplier, but he has no Alibaba backup system.
Okay. Maybe some things could be this. One is you could possibly ask for previous references for some clients who they've worked with before. Two is maybe you could ask for some certain information about the factory itself. You know, how big is your supply? Or how big is your facility? How many people work for you? How many people are workers? How many people are managers? Like, you know, what's the structure of the facility? Why that's important, because you want to kind of know. Wow, they said they don't export. Then how are you going to pay them money? As Zach just updated, said they don't export. So this is a problem, because if they don't have an export license, they're going to have to find a sneaky way to get it to someone else that does. Now, I'm sure they can figure that out for you.
Sounds like that's where your margin is going to go, though.
Yeah, well, nah, I wouldn't say that. It's just that there might be some problems in where you got to send the money, so they won't be able to accept money directly from you. You're gonna have to send the money to a person that has an export license, because unless you're doing X works, okay, so they're using an agent, right? Wow, I wouldn't be really up to using a guy. Why? Because if they don't have an export license, that means they don't have the experience to sending products out.
They may not know how to package
so
them.
That means packaging, but even like raw materials and stuff, you know. I obviously don't know what Zach knows about these guys, because he's obviously been talking to them for a while and doing the research. If he's trying to do some more research and you want some kind of eye-to-eye contact or something, you can also go to you know, a third-party QC company to go and just look at them and verify them. And I really think that is a good idea, because if you're going to spend some money, who for licenses, they might be running a bit of a chop shop. And I don't know what type of product that you're doing, but I've done LEDs.
You found them on 1688.
Yeah, that's primarily for the Chinese market.
Domestic market.
Domestic. Still be able to find suppliers on that are also going to export as well, but mostly that's for the domestic market with domestic quality and domestic, management expectations, that they have. So I would suggest that if you need a real hands-on, you can go hire a QC group to go out, and they will charge you $300 USD per man day wherever they are in China, and they'll go and look at it and say, hey, these are the things that I want to go look at. Also, on third-party QC places, they also offer a certain checklist that maybe they'll help you look for to help you make your decision, because they're pretty experienced in it.
Zach, here's my question for you. Can you not find a supplier on Alibaba that has this, or do they have such a unique item that's why you're going after it, because you're able to, the product is very generic. I'm making a small order of 100 pieces and paying them with TT. If all goes well and inspection is good on my 1,500 PC order, would you say that's enough? What, 100 pieces? Are you asking if 100 pieces is enough to? I don't know.
I would say this: if you're gonna put 100 pieces down, and it sounds like you're already kind of convinced that you want to do this, and 100 pieces is worth the risk, because we do take risks as well. They may be a great supplier, but if you're unwilling to, if you're unable to verify before have a QC go out there and maybe just have a look, and watch the production, or just first go out to the facilities to understand what they're actually doing, maybe your first risk needs to be pay for the 100, and it will be kind of your college education about moving up with these guys, and see if it's worth to make.
What's the cost, Zach, for the 100 pieces? What's the per item cost or total cost? If you can tell us, and that might tell us, because if it's less than 300, you might as well go ahead and order the 100, because it's going to cost you 300 for somebody to go out there and look at it, and then you have to buy it.
Yeah, and it might be better that you're going to get it to you, and you can look at it and be like, "Wow, this is really junk. I can't do anything with it." But it's hard to say. It's really hard to say, because I don't know too much about it. So I think having a QC guy and go and check it out. Again, if it's low margin, you think 100's a good risk for you to take a look at. That's fine, but I would be aware of the quality.
Okay. And when he was asking what is the Chinese version of Alibaba, is that 1688? Is that the one he's looking for?
Yeah.
And why does your glass have like this big sticker coming off of it?
Oh no, this is peppermint tea.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You got it. You still got the bag and the. That's the way I do. I always leave it in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it 1688, the Chinese version of Alibaba?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the wholesale area for the Chinese market for manufacturers. So manufacturers will have their product on there, and sometimes the manufacturer will have like their own internal marketing. So, for example, if it's like a bag manufacturer, the bag manufacturer most likely makes like balls, right, to sell in their region, because it's a way to get rid of leftover stock or overstock, or maybe just keeping people busy or whatever, or keeping a flow of things going. So, but it could be a good place that you could find kind of under the radar suppliers that are maybe not advertising in the same way as they are in English at websites.
So they may actually have a better rate than they do to the public-facing Americans.
Yes.
Okay.
Possibly.
So Zach says it's about 500 for the 100 pieces, including shipping. I'd say in that case, you ought to just roll the dice. It's only 200 more than having a qualified inspection go out there and look at it. I don't know. That's just I mean, if it's any quality at all, you could probably sell it at your cost and get your money back, maybe.
Yeah, he's saying it's a generic item. If you're comfortable that the quality of the product right now because you've seen samples, and you know that you looked at it yourself, you held it and felt it, and you go, it's a generic product. I like it. I think I can sell it. I think it could be something worth looking into. Now, I don't know if this is a product that requires some kind of specifications, if it's health or, like that type of stuff, electricity items and things like that. I would kind of,
Exactly. Yeah.
if it's like a plastic widget, and it's like goes on a refrigerator, or it's static, it doesn't have moving parts. Maybe
Right.
it's an easy piece,
It could be, and it could be a product that if you don't know if it fits into a tariff, what tariff it fits in, it might might cost you more money because there's a tariff on it because you're just not aware of it.
Yeah, possibly. And it sounds like it's homewares, and he knows it well. I mean, if you say you know it well, it seems like you kind of have already made a decision to do this. So a way for you to maybe self-verify again, I would just go back to saying third-party QC. Have
So
someone
Zach,
just go in and look.
yeah, Zach, did you get a sample from these guys? That's probably the first question. Because if you've got a sample and you like it, and you already source this product locally, and you know the product quite well, and if the sample was good, then I don't see why you wouldn't go for the 100 pieces. Okay, Patty, we're not going to be able to answer your question. You're saying how to run Amazon pay-per-click ads, how to get reviews with Amazon's new crackdown on giving discount product for reviews. This is not the place.
I think that's your.
Yeah. And actually, we covered this on last week's webinar. I'm pretty sure Bridget Williams is on there. So go back to the panel discussion we had with past guests, which Matt was supposed to be on, but he got the dates wrong. So we would have loved him. We had it on Thursday night, and he showed up on Saturday morning, like 2 days later. Okay. I guess it would have been Friday morning this time. It's morning time over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's currently 10:56.
Steve is saying, do you endorse going to the Canton Fair?
Yes, depending on what you're looking for. There are a variety of fairs. There's the Global Sources Fair. There's IDTDC in Hong Kong. And so Global Sources, and I believe it's called the HKTDC Fair. And then there's also the Canton Fair, which everyone knows about, which is in Guangzhou. So the Canton Fair is great. It's huge. It's got a lot of stuff. It can be quite advanced. It can be quite overload to the senses.
Hose.
Yeah, it can be quite overloading to the senses. So I think it's a good place to go. But I also think Hong Kong shows can be a valid place to go as well as your first step in, maybe to just kind of learn and it kind of because they're going to offer more services. They're going to be a little bit more honed at the Hong Kong shows. The Canton Fair is a huge array of suppliers from high to low, different sectors and things that they're doing. You kind of my idea is when you go to the Canton Fair, know what you're looking for and go there first.
That's what I was about to say. I would think that if you go in there just to say, "Oh, I don't know what I want to get. I just want to see if they've got anything over there," you'll probably regret that.
Oh, you'll your feet will hurt, and you'll leave with 2 suitcases full of books that will make your decision even harder.
Yeah, anybody who wants to go to the Canton Fair, guys, go to YouTube and look up Perry Belcher. And Perry Belcher has like 5 20-minute YouTube videos where he's talking to a group of guys that he's taking to the Canton Fair, and they're eating lunch, and he's taking Q&A, and he's going through it, and he will give you a wealth of information about tricks like get a rolling suitcase that has that also doubles as a seat, so you can put all your magazines and or all your books and stuff you pick up from your vendors, but you can also
and good sneakers.
Yeah, good pair of sneakers. And he usually hires a translator. He says that that's where the cultural nuances could show up, that if you walk in and hand them a business card yourself, then they don't look at you as the guy that can really make the decision. So he has this, he gets his interpreter, which is usually a college student, to be the person that hands out his business card. So, and then they arrange to speak to the top guy in the booth, and there might be 15 people in the booth, but there's one top guy over there that unless you make arrangements to talk to them, then you might be just interrupting and bothering them. Anyway, it's a Perry Belcher. Look for Canton Fair on YouTube and you'll find it. Greg is asking, what is your opinion for the Chinese economy over the next 12 months? Any opinion?
Let's see. I mean, I'm not much of a soothsayer, but China is quite stable, and because the government is holding a lot of things, they're propping up a lot of things. I don't see the economy taking a huge dip because the government's doing a lot of efforts in order to keep it at its same rate. So, if your question is like, how do I see the economy? For us, as far as U.S. buyers or if anyone's who's in Europe, our pricing is becoming cheaper because the rate now is being adjusted. So now it's 6.4. So right now we're getting a little bit of a discount than we were, let's say, 4 months ago at 6.1. So
the exchange rate.
Yeah, so maybe the exchange rate will continue to ease, but in 12 months, maybe 0.05. So maybe it will be up to 6.4, and it might just stay there because they won't let it go too high because that really damages people collecting money. But keeping it go up a little bit also helps the export business, which is the main economy of China at the minute. But they're looking to do more domestic business because they're also realizing that they can't keep upping the rate so people can get cheaper products because they'll never get out. They're looking for domestic consumption as well.
Cool. Good answer. By the way, Zach just threw up a link to Canton Fair 360. It's pretty cool. If you page down on that page, you'll see all of these little videos you can play, and it's a 360-degree, and there's a bunch of them. So it gives you kind of an idea what you're looking at the Canton Fair. Thanks for that, Zach. Vanessa says, how do you start out small, testing out a private label without having to sink a lot of money into it at the very beginning? That's always the question, I think.
Yeah. I think Matt's probably talked about this before, is that doing things like AliExpress. AliExpress, is buying some small products at wholesale value to test them. And then they get to you, low risk. It comes to you. The shipping's usually included on
Yep.
AliExpress. Shipping gets to you. Hi, honey. And then, that's a way for you to test. You don't have to sink a lot of money. Now, once you see it's successful, then you can start looking for suppliers and say, okay, now I know it's successful. I'm willing to start going and put a little bit more money in it. I'm looking for customization. Now I'm going to do these other things. So I think this is the best way to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. If you go back and listen to, there's a few of my webinars that that's the MO. Go to AliExpress. Will Churlin. Will Churlin is a great one to look at because that's what he does. He went to AliExpress. You buy with a credit card. It's like ordering off Amazon. You can buy one item. You can buy 10 items. So he buys 10 to 20 or 30 items depending on the price. Throws them up on Amazon, and if they sell, they sell. And if they sell, then he starts worrying about private label and branding and logos and that sort of thing. He just wants to see, can he sell them and make money on them? This is back to the Canton Fair. Boris is saying, good place to stay in China for a newbie on a limited budget. Things to take along and things to do first to make the most out of a business trip.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about the
Probably
Canton
going
Fair?
to Canton Fair or just going over there to go to any kind of fair. He's probably just saying, hey, is there a way to save money when you're flying and staying at hotels? I mean, if you're going to see a factory, for example, if you already had an appointment to go see a factory, it may be that the factory would they put you up in a hotel, or would they pick you up and take you to a hotel, save you the cab fare, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So if we're not talking about Canton Fair, you could if you're going to go look at some suppliers in a specific region and you've already contacted them. By the way, they're all not going to be in the same area. They all say they're about 30 minutes away from Shanghai or Beijing or something. They're like an hour or something.
It depends on how fast you drive.
It's going to be a full. Yeah, or traffic. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is there's a lot of. And so if you're going to say, let's say you want to go see 3 or 4 suppliers, I would say that it's going to be, you're going to see one supplier and it's going to be a full day. I mean, you're going to go get picked up at your hotel at 9 or 8, and you're going to go to the factory. You're going to spend lunch with them, possibly dinner. I don't know. Or you might want to cut it off and say your day, and then you spend the rest of the day. You know, if you can contact your supplier and they'll come pick you up at the airport, possibly, depending on what your relationship with them. They can also recommend a local hotel that that you say, I have a budget for this, and they'll help you get out there. When you're at like more local areas, you're not staying in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Beijing, Shanghai. You can find places for less than $50 and it'll be pretty nice. So, and it would be like kind of, it'll be in a local town. So, and eating is not expensive out in those areas. So that could be type of a budget, that you could look into do. Traveling, most of the time, your supplier is going to come and pick you up and take you to their supplier. They'll take you back to the hotel, So they'll be mostly like this.
All right. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm about to post a link to a replay with Nancy Ramirez. Nancy is a very early on interview that I did. Nancy, she actually sourced the Canton Fair for like 8 or 9 years in a row. So every year she'd fly over there, and there's the link, guys. Watch that replay. She gives you all the tips and tricks of the trade on how to get cheap prices, how to get the tickets for free sometimes, how to save money on airfare, and all those kind of things. So if you can't learn that from her, you're probably not going to learn it. Between her and Perry Belcher, you guys are going to learn some of those things. These guys have been living there for 10 years, so they don't have to fly over. They don't have to worry about how to stay in a cheap hotel. So you probably don't have a lot of that information because of the type of experience you have. So go check that out, guys. And then, wow, we're at the end of our questions, and we're at 2 hours. So anybody has any more questions? By the way, guys, when you put a question in the chat box, there should be a drop down that lets you choose whether it's just a statement or whether it's a question. And if you choose it to be a question, it will pop up with a big red question mark, and it gets stuck over here in a side panel for me, so I can see that you guys do have a question. I guess I probably should have said that about 2 hours ago. So
we got most of them, I think.
All right, Jamon, what did we not ask that we should have asked, or what information that you say this is information that you guys need to take home with you that you're just not aware of and you didn't even know to ask about it?
Wow, I mean, there's a lot. So okay. I'll just give you. I'll give you the basics, right? So I think. Okay, so here's some things that maybe you just have to think about yourself. I suggest 4 items to think about for yourself. It's quality, quantity, price, and speed. So these are going to be kind of the ground rules in which you operate by, and this will help you move forward with other suppliers. So you want to kind of understand those things, and that's going to help you first find suppliers, know what you're looking for, and understand what's important to you, because not every supplier can offer all 4 of those. They can only offer 2, possibly 3. So I think that's something to think about right there. The next thing is probably go through the process. Learn, make sure you cast your net wide. Do the research that way and ask questions, because when you talk to those people, you're going to learn a lot about that product. Just by contacting 15 suppliers, asking those questions, you're going to start getting getting answers to stuff that sometimes you didn't even ask. So you're going to learn more about that product, which is going to help you further make other deductions about finding other suppliers, better quality, asking the right questions when you contact the next set of suppliers that are going to help you figure out, oh, this is the most direct way, easiest way about how to get the best price. And I know all the lingo of this certain product. So, you know, that's the second step, is really sitting the net wide. And I really do believe in this step because unless you have people working for you and they're just going to crunch the numbers for you, if you guys are beginners, you have more time than money is what I'm assuming here. So
True.
you want to take advantage of that time that you have to save that money and spend it on the most qualified, best product, but also a best supplier that you've been able to find. Next is make sure you get samples, verify those samples, make sure you pay into the correct account, that it's not going to a sales guy. Before you put down money for an order, make sure that you see the product one more time and you're completely happy with it, and everyone understands that the product is being made is what we've all agreed to before you put down the deposit. Do quality control before the product is done and before you send your final 70%, and make sure you understand how much it's going to cost to ship your product from China to your part of the world, because that's the last thing that everybody thinks about. So that's my quick list.
Good deal. We got another question here. Raymond came up with it. He says, this is a curveball. I visited Yawu City a few years back, but found the suppliers I met would deliver B-grade quality products. Opinions of Yawu City?
Yeah, Iwu is pretty much known for their cheap plastic goods, cheap toys and things like that. That's kind of what Iwu is really known for, is promotional quality products. So promotional quality products means low quality, one-off, most likely given away for free or under $5 US.
Yeah, it's stuff you give away in the bag, the trade show bag, when people come to your booth and that sort of thing.
Yeah, or just also cheap plastic goods. If you go to the supermarket and you go to like the birthday section, you see a little package full of hats and little blowers and balloons and stuff like that. Like, that's what's made in Iwu. And that gives you an idea about the type of stuff and quality that's being made in Iwu.
Zach says the sourcing service you guys provide is for bigger orders. Can you recommend any company for smaller orders? Is there somebody that does anything that approaches what you do on a smaller scale? Would be individual persons that do that?
Off the top of my head, no, because this type of service that we provide for people is because we have vetted people out, and we know that there's a certain value, and they're willing to also spend the money to get it done. So the next best thing is to first find a trading company, and I think a trading company can offer great services to you, or there'll be agents that you can find in Alibaba. Basically, there'll be like a trading company. Now, you have to figure out what is most important to you. What are the services that you want? Do you want someone to help you figure out shipping? Are they helping you find more suppliers? Are they watching over your quality? So you have to figure out what this person is going to go do for you. And a trading company might be a good option for you to do that. Unfortunately, I don't have a Rolodex of guys who just do one-offs or anything, but otherwise I would give something out.
Yeah, Lisa's saying, what is their contact info? Question mark, question mark, question mark. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I also sometimes, if you're just finding a one-off guy who's just in China, that might not be good either. I'm sorry?
I'm saying you probably can find somebody, because I have a guy that he's not my sourcer guy, but if I have a question, he can get the answer for me. He's American that's living in China, and he speaks Chinese. And then I know that Pilar Newman that I interviewed, she's bought enough stuff that over a couple of different purchases she's bumped into agents, and now that she has these guys working with her full on an ongoing basis. So I guess it's just going to have to be, you got to mix it up and get out there and start asking questions. You'll finally run across somebody that And I've also heard that some of the times the agent, some of the people that you're talking to at the factory will refer you to an agent, or sometimes they'll act as an agent and actually go looking for other stuff that their company doesn't do, but they want to continue your relationship. So they do some of the, they do some of the research for you.
Sure. And again, it all depends on what type of service you're looking at. Like if you're looking for someone to act as on your behalf, a trading company can help you to do that. Or you can do a little bit more a deep dive. If you go on LinkedIn or, things like that, you'd be able to probably find a person who says, hey, I'm an agent over here in China. I can help, but I would be very clear about the services that you want from that person, because otherwise, usually how they work is that they want a stipend. They want $500 a month or $1,000 a month, and they might not be giving you the services that you want. So you want to make sure that you are getting these said services, and do you see the value that they want to do. But I don't think that really aligns the goals of you and this person, because if you're paying him a flat rate per month, the idea is to do as little as work for that money, right? He's already has the money. Now he just has to perform at the minimum amount of service in order to retain as much profit, right? Where another thing is that maybe you would want to do a percentage per order and per successful order, and that will keep your interests aligned, possibly, if you're doing a percentage per order. Or if you have more time, you want to do your own research. We do this thing running with China, which is like a whole thing that helps people, but it's not a service that holds people's hands. It's about people learning themselves and wanting to do themselves. But being able to ask questions and have a format. But
tell us more about running with China, because we didn't even talk about that. We really didn't talk about it a lot when Matt was on last time. Give us more about more in depth about what running with China, what a person can do, and what do you offer? Is it running like a course?
Yeah, it's an online video course. It's about 3 hours, and it has a whole bunch of templates along with the back about how contact suppliers, checklists, things like that. And then also there's a back end form where you can ask questions and contact us, not just some people, but us personally, about some of the problems that you're having. So what this is more of learning about how to find products, how to find suppliers, how to do your manufacturing right from the beginning to the end, and also having the safety net of being able to ask someone like me or Matt or Terry that the questions that you have, and being able to get them answered. So you're like, hey, I have these suppliers, I have these 3 suppliers. I'm not really sure which one to pick. Can you help me? Can you give me an idea about why you would pick one of these others? So that would be the back end forum area. So we kind of have 2 services. One is the basic level, or we call it gold, and where people get all the videos and all the templates and access to the membership area to talk with us at any time through a forum. And it's kind of a pull up your own bootlaces. You want to learn about how to make sure you do this well the first time, and because you believe this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be private labeling, you're going to be figuring out all this stuff up, and you want to do it yourself. And the platinum level is where we have about 6 hours of consulting calls in between. And I don't like to say consulting, because consulting, I don't know if everyone's ever done consulting before, but it sounds like, it's like people just telling you what to do, and you're like, oh, and then do it. We like to do these calls where people go through the site and their product, and they're like, I'm at this point, what do you think I should do next according to my project and what I'm doing? It's not a generalized item. So we would go through, hey, where are you at? How are you moving forward? If you're having problems now, you got to get on the phone and talk to us. You have that availability to us. So those are the 2 different items. So the idea behind running with China is you want to do it yourself. You want to learn how to do it yourself, and you kind of want to be a professional at it. Now, we don't teach how to do Amazon or anything because that's not who we are, and we don't teach copywriting and marketing and stuff like that, or even how to choose a product. We're about learning about how to correctly manufacture and make that product awesome, and have awesome relationships with your supplier as well.
So what is the what are the cost factor, the cost factor for platinum and the gold levels?
The gold level is 800, 799, and then the platinum is 2,799. But they have all these different type of different things that go along with them. Is it okay if I put it in there for people to look at?
I've already put the link up there. Running with China, is that what?
Oh,
Is that
good.
is that the link you
Yeah,
want
that's
to put up?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the pricing list. So then you can see the difference between the different packages and
Okay,
stuff
you
like
put
that.
the
So you
actual
can really read
prices on
into
that.
it.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys can go. There's some videos on there that you can go see on their site, and I think if you sign up for your newsletter, you get some additional videos that can kind of whet their appetite about what you guys can do.
Yeah, that'll be coming up again here in a couple weeks. Right now, we've taken everything down. We kind of limit that because we want to. If we just keeping it out there, a lot of people are just using that information and then they're not really getting anywhere. It kind of whets their appetite, but then they get stuck, and then they don't know where to go. So we also do have a Facebook group on as well that you can connect and if you can ask some questions as well. So if you do get stuck,
Okay. Hey, I want
so
to
running with
thank.
China group.
Cool. Yeah, I'm actually a member over there. Well, I really appreciate you guys. Matt came back on. Appreciate you coming on, Jamon. Maybe we can have Terry on at another time. I really appreciate
Sure.
the fact that we've got boots on the ground. You guys have you get to see behind the curtain that a lot of times you just hear lots of the same stuff regurgitated through the Facebook groups that nobody really knows. You guys have been there for a combined 33 years of experience of working and
Yeah.
living in China. So I'm pretty sure they can't go wrong if they decided to hire you guys either through Running with China or through your main service if it matches up with what you have. So with
Sure.
that, I'm going to say, hey, thanks for spending the time. It's 2 hours and 21 minutes here. It was jam-packed with lots of good information. Hey, guys, if you guys got a lot out of this, do me a favor and go back to the Facebook group where you maybe signed up and or you saw the invite for this and comment on it and say, hey, these guys knocked it out of the park. Other people will come to that same link and click on it and watch the replay because you said, hey, this was a good webinar. So if you can do that, Raymond Yu says, excellent as usual, Jake. And that's because we always have great guests. These guests is what makes it fantastic. So with that, guys, I'm gonna call it quits on the on this webinar. Tell Matt sent me a Facebook message that his internet just finally just kaput. But
Yeah, that's what happens when you're at the beach.
yeah, somebody got done with the victory over Japan and pushed a button and shut his bandwidth
That's
down.
right. That's right.
So thanks for being there for us. Thanks for being our featured guest. Any last words, Jamon?
Hey, just keep your head on a swivel, and you'll be all right.
All right. Thanks, brother. Good advice. We'll see you guys next week.